Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock and it is a Tuesday and it's time for a Talk Magic. Today I have somebody who has created more awesome magic than pretty much anyone I know. The legend himself, Alan Rorrison. How you doing, mate? You good?
How are you doing, buddy? Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.
We're going to do the usuals. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here and all that kind of stuff. Get that out of the way to begin with.
You know what? I've been open and honest about this channel from the very beginning. When I started the interviews, I had a bucket list of my favorite magicians who I wanted to interview, and you're right there at the top of the list because...
Oh, thank you for the kind words.
You are. You know, you have had so many amazing creations over the years. You've been involved in magic for a very, very long time. And I'd like to pick your brain and talk to you about your career and talk to you about, you know, some of the creations that you've done over the last few years and, you know, just find out more about Alan, if that's okay.
Sure, go for it.
Well, let's start at the beginning. When did the bug bite you? Was it very early on or was it sort of later on in life?
I was a sort of funny one. So I got a magic kit for Christmas when I was 9. And it wasn't even a gift for me. It was a gift for the kid next door, and he didn't want it, was not interested in it, and it then got passed on to me. And I get bit with the bug a little bit there. And then when I became like a teenager and figured out there was like, in Scotland, we figured out there was booze, and then we figured out like there was like also there's just sorts of fun stuff you could do as a teenager. I kind of went into all that kind of stuff and went away from magic a little teeny bit. And then there was like just a sort of resurgence of magic on TV, like with David Blaine and all the Wayne Dobson shows and all that kind of fun stuff. And it kind of bit the bug for me again. But the short answer is I kind of get into it when I was 9. And the slightly longer answer is it took to get into my teenage years for it to proper like get its claws into me.
And when did you go and become a professional performer? And actually, was that early on, or was that later on when you actually started going out and gigging? And
it was really early on. In fact, to be quite frank, I probably gigged a little bit sooner than I was ready. I think everyone does.
Yeah.
Anyone that's going to do it seriously really does do it a little bit too early, which is a good bit of advice for any sort of younger ones listening. If you can and you feel like you're absolutely ready to go start doing paid gigs, hold off a little, film yourself a little bit, and be honest with yourself. That's the kind of weird thing. We can kind of fall into a trap of having your parents say, "Oh, you're amazing," because they've kind of have to. So just be honest with it. But for me, it was when I was about 21, I think, roughly.
Yeah.
I started to get paid gigs and all that kind of fun stuff. And my first paid gigs were horrible. It was in like absolute dive bars for like 25 quid for 2 nights work. And when I say 2 nights work, I mean from like 6 right up until 1 a.m. It was rough. But it paid rent, so.
You know what? I see a lot of new people coming into magic these days, and I don't know if it's because of the internet or social media, but they kind of have this idea of they're going to go straight to that kind of high-end corporate level a week after opening their Marvin's Magic sets.
Yep.
And, you know, when I first got into magic, it was all about paying your dues. It was going working crappy gigs, working crappy venues. When I wanted to start working on stage, I did the holiday park for 4 years, holiday park circuit for like 3-4 years, making zero money and just traveling around the country like 7 days.
Dude, I still have a red coat somewhere.
You got to do that though, haven't you?
I still have legit. It will not fit me anymore, but I legit have a red coat somewhere. I've done it a couple of summers down at Butlins in there, and I was only part time there, so I technically shouldn't have the coat. So let's keep that to ourselves. But that was a rough gig. You basically got your food and your board. That was it, and it was just knowing that this is how you're going to get good.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than walking into what you think is going to be like a stage room, and you're just plopped in the center of a ballroom with kids all around you, and you're like, that's half the stuff I had here isn't going to work now. You have to just kind of figure it out.
Exactly.
But again, I wouldn't trade that in for the world, to be honest. It was a rough learning experience, but I don't think I'd be the performer I am now without it.
Well, what advice have you got for somebody? One of the things I see a lot with newer magicians especially is they feel very nervous when they're performing. You know, that shaky hand syndrome that cripples some magicians and forces them to not even, end up doing magic because it scares them to death. Is that something you've experienced? And if it is, how have you dealt with it? Is that something, what advice can you give somebody that's really, really nervous?
Well, I won't lie to you. I still get extreme stage fright. I suffer terribly with imposter syndrome. Like, I'm still at the point of my brain thinks, I don't know why I'm here. Don't think I'm good enough to be here. I don't know why people are paying me to do this. So I get that at every single gig. And if it's a sort of bigger gig, or if I've taken like a month out and I'm going back to it again, I'll vomit before the show every single time now. The best piece of advice with it, and it was Roy Walton that gave me it, is it's all right to be afraid. And it's all right to like have the nerves and just try and find a good way to deal with it. But the main thing is just go do it. The nerves aren't going to go away or ease without getting the experience in. And you're not going to get the experience in without just going and getting the show done. And just understand, you're going to have bad gigs. Like, even today, we're going to have bad gigs. I could go out tomorrow and have an absolute terrible gig. It just happens. And every single field you're in, if it's whether you're in a band or a comedian or a magician or whatever, even the top pros have a rough night. It happens. And you've got to just come to terms with that and know what's going to happen, and just know that it's not going to be your last gig. Just keep on going with it. That's it. You'll do better next time. One other good tip as well is, I wouldn't recommend using your phone, because it means you have to leave it away from your body for a long period of time. I don't recommend anyone do that, because your phone is such an extension of you now. But buy a cheap action camera or something like that and set it up at the side of the stage and film everything. Record audio on your phone on person and record all of that as well. Mm-hmm. And then review it, because once you start reviewing that, you'll start to see where you start to maybe lose the audience, or where you might start to lose your own train of thought and that kind of stuff. And it helps no ends. There was a comedian that told me that, and I thought it was a bunch of bollocks. Then the first night I tried it, I figured out like a couple of parts in my act where I could get some chaff off of it and make it a lot more streamlined and flow nicer. So you'd be surprised at how beneficial it is doing that.
That's really good advice. That's really good advice. It really is.
And these little cheap action cameras, you can pick one up on Amazon now for like $15. That's it. Even 10 quid you'll pick one up for. Now, I'm not saying the footage is going to be great, but for the purpose for this is it doesn't have to be. It's a little cheap camera you can leave on a shelf somewhere in the venue. You don't care if it gets nicked, really. It's only 10 quid. And it's only for you to review the footage. You're not looking to put this anywhere, so it doesn't need to look fantastic. It's solely, its purpose is just for you to review your show and help streamline it. That's it. And I've got a bunch of these. I mean, I'm using a cheap one now for my webcams. I mean, the quality of the footage is all right. It does just fine. And especially for in a venue and that kind of stuff. If this thing gets stole, if someone spotted it, it's 10 quid. Doesn't bother. I'll go pick up a new one.
That's really good advice. And I remember the first time I did a stage act and filmed it and watched it back, it was a real eye-opener. The stuff that I thought was working, I was like, oh my gosh, I've got some work to do. It's
scary once you realize how many times you say, during a show. And it's just a point where you've just been lazy and not scripted and not figured out how to link this part to this part. And your brain just adds in that, I was horrible for it. I'd done it every like sentence or two. And I thought I was good. So I was like, I don't need script then. It's fine. I'll ad-lib it. No. I script everything down to its finest detail now. Especially now that I've got the kid there now, and he might see footage of me later on. It's why you'll never like see a picture of me now flicking a camera off or that kind of stuff, because I don't want him to go up and go, well, you're doing this. So on that, I'm trying to script out all the swearing out of my script, unless it's an adult show and it's not going to go anywhere. If it's stuff that might get used, I script out every last bit of swearing. I script out every bit of lewdness and that kind of stuff, just to make sure that I can be proud of it at the end of the day, and I can be proud if he watches it. Which is another one of those little weird facts weird things that people coming up should know. We're now in a digital age. So if you put something online, it's just always there. You're not going to get rid of it, even if you think you've deleted it, it's there somewhere. So you have to have a look at everything you're going to put up and think, will I be proud of this in 5 years? Will I be proud of it in 10 years? Am I going to be able to explain it in 10 years? Do you know what I mean? It's one of those sort of weird things, and we're in a culture now where you will get called on stuff if it isn't quite right.
It's very true. It really is. And you talked about imposter syndrome. That's something that a lot of magicians really struggle with. And I can understand why I mean, you're from Scotland, man. I mean, some of the best magicians in the world come from your neck of the woods.
We've got a good heritage up here, most definitely. I think one of the things that contributes to it for me is, for the longest time, I was the only magician in this town. Like, certainly, like when I was younger, I was the only idiot who thought, you know what, I'm going to get the top hat and do that bollocks. That's what I'm doing. And then once I started to get a bit more known and a bit of popularity, I didn't quite understand why anyone would want to come and see a little dude from this little small town on the arse end of Scotland. And I still get that. I mean, there's times where I've been sitting in production meetings with, like, talking a whole production team through the tricks we're going to do for the next shoot day. And the shoot day is costing us God knows how much. And then I walk out of that meeting. They're all going, yep, perfect, done deal. That's great, excellent. And I walk out of the meeting and I'm like, why the fuck am I here? It's like, what am I doing here? It's like, this might not pay off. Crap. It always has, thankfully, but oof.
Yeah. How do you deal with it, though, for anybody else that's watching this that gets imposter syndrome as well? Because, and we're going to talk about this, but in your career, you've done so much. You've put yourself in so many nerve-wracking situations. Penn Teller, for example, standing in front of Penn Teller trying to fool him. And I want to get to that in a bit.
That was rough.
The point I'm trying to tell people that are watching this is, you have imposter syndrome, that you've just said that you've got imposter syndrome, but you've overcome it because you have put yourself in so many situations.
I truly overcome it daily. And it goes back to that same advice, is like, it's always going to be there. So just understand it's going to be there. And the weird thing I have, and the same kind of goes for the nerves, is I will be nervous as oh hell right up until 1 minute until I'm going to go on the stage. Like, see, when I'm being introduced and all that kind of stuff, when all that stuff's kicking off, I'm getting more nervous and more nervous and more nervous. And as soon as the person goes, ladies and gentlemen, Alan Rorrison, a switch goes, and I'm just into automatic pilot. I'm like, I know the show, I know what I'm saying, I know what I'm doing. Behind this little case here, if I get lost at any point, I've got it's not a teleprompter. What I've done was I went and bought one of these. This is like a cheap tablet. This is a Fire 7, sorry. Really cheap, 30 quid on Amazon. You'll get them cheaper on Black Friday sales. And I've downloaded a teleprompter app for it. So when I do every act, I've got it scripted in and it sits there. And the app hears your audio and it moves for you. So once you stop talking, it stops moving. Right? So I use that. And it means if at any point, if I'm ever like stuck and I don't know where I'm, just have a glance down, it's right there. I'm good. So to get past the whole imposter syndrome and all that kind of fun stuff, I just make sure I plan everything. If I've planned it, I know it's going to work. I've test ran it. I know it's going to go okay. As long as I just follow what I've practiced, I'm good. I'm still going to feel like crap about it, but I know people are going to enjoy it. And then that goes back to the whole film everything, see what people aren't enjoying, lose it. Don't be afraid to lose it. Now, a lot of people will keep a really shit trick in their act because they spent so much freaking money on it. In this, you kind of have, and the whole industry, you kind of have to be aware that you might think this trick is amazing. You might spend a bunch of money on this big expensive gimmick, or spend a lot of money to get it made, or put your own time in to make the damn thing, and then realize the trick maybe doesn't translate as well as you thought it would. And you can't be afraid just to go, right, I've got to put it aside. I might find a better spot for it later on, or a way to make it better later on, but just now it needs to get put to the sort of side cupboard, and I need to fill that spot with something that's going to work. So just prepare, just practice. As long as you've got all your sort of tricks in line and what you're going to say in line, you've got this block of information that people are going to like. So the imposter syndrome can still live within that, as long as you've practiced that. Do you know what I mean?
That makes a lot of sense. That really does. Now, I want to change and talk about something else right now. And that's creativity, because one of the things that has personified your career is the ridiculous amount of creations that you've come up with. over the years. And what you tend to do is you tend to come up with a lot of different methods to anybody else. Your thinking goes in a completely different direction. It's not like you've gone, right, okay, I love Jay Sankey to bits, but it's not like you've gone, right, let's take the Erdnase change and come up with 500,000 different variations on routines with an Erdnase change. Mm-hmm. Your creativity works on a different level. It's like you think of stuff that is very completely different in methodology. How did you decide to become a creator? Did you originally create for yourself, or because I think one of the first projects I ever saw of yours was the Fingers of Fury with BBM.
Oh God, there's a blast from the past. I actually, this will tickle you. In fact, I recently just popped up 2 videos, and I have the gimmick sitting here. I can't show what it is because I don't want people to see what it is. However, there's a trick on there. It's like a little invisible Christmas tree that you cup your hands and the lights flash, and then you open your hands up and there's nothing there.
You sent me that video, man. I was fooled to.
It's on volume 2, I think, of Fingers of Fury. And I bought in the stuff to make the gimmick again, because I was like, that's a cute routine. I want to just have that ready to go again. And it's just like after 10 years. I was like, so I bought the stuff in, made it up, and it was all fine. And then today I was looking through one of my old magic boxes for something else, and I found the original gimmick. The thing still worked. But on the creativity side of things, I kind of just always have been. When I was a kid, I would tear things apart and then put it back together. And I remember I once got this. It was like a board game, but it had this little block, a little red block that had a cog on it, and you turned it, and all this stuff happened on this board game, right? And I was like, I wonder how that. The game's cool, but I wonder what's inside this that makes all of this work. So I spent that, it wasn't a Christmas, I don't think. I think it was a birthday or something. I spent all that day pulling this one thing apart. And at one point, my mum walked in the room, and you could see the anger on her face, because she must have queued for God knows how many hours to get this freaking thing. And I'm just sitting there with it all in bits and cogs and everything everywhere, like, I'll make it work, it's fine. But I figured out how to put it back together, and that was fine. I've just always been that kind of kid. And then when it came to magic, the very, very, very first thing I ever created, and I teach it still to this day at every single lecture, I make a point to, because it was the first thing I ever did, was an ungimmicked version of UNFW. So NFW, the Gary Freed trick.
Yep.
Where the aces turn face down and turn into jokers. I used to perform that trick, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I was at one venue, and this will be slightly spoilerish or exposerish, but I'll try and keep it so it's not too bad. I'd done the trick, and then at the end of it, one guy was standing there completely unimpressed, and he just peeled it apart, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, bollocks. I don't trust that to use now. Like, front of a whole room, and I was like, this is going to be a bad gig, done deal, and that was all fine. So I went home that night and figured out a way to do it without the gimmicks. And then I think from that point on, my brain just kind of went, give myself a couple of methods for everything. Try and have a gimmicked version, try and have an ungimmicked version, and then you're good to go either which fucking way. And it just kind of snowballed. But I've got a nasty habit of being, I think it was Ian Kendall was the first person I heard to say this. And he's like, I'm a chronic collector of skills. That's what he used to say about himself. And I think I fall into that category. I mean, the first job I had leaving school was in a shipyard. And then I went, became a welder and that kind of thing. Then I went, became a nurse, because why not? And then after that, the whole magic bit kicked in. So I've always kind of had varying interests in things. And in my spare time, I build a bunch of stuff. Like the vast majority of the stuff behind me you see on the walls I've made. So I like to watch build videos, like how to 3D print, how to sculpt, how to fix a washing machine, all that kind of fun stuff. So I've always been into watching all that kind of thing, and just all these little skills kind of lend well for creating stuff and putting stuff together. That's a sort of long answer to a short question. I do apologize.
No, it's a great answer, because I think it's the holy grail. When people first come into magic, and I've talked about this on the channel before, once they've kind of got a few skills under their belts, people are desperate to want to become magic famous. You know, I want to have my own DVD. I want to have my own download. I want to create magic. And I think a lot of people are searching for how to actually do that.
Christ, I never wanted to be at any point.
But you are.
I know. I never wanted to be. I still, Matt Parrott, he's one of my best friends in this whole earth. And every single year at Blackpool, we play, he calls it the game. And basically it's seeing how many times I get either A, recognised on the way through the dealer's hall on the first day. That gets 5 points. If I get asked for a picture, that's 10 points. And if I get asked to sign something, that's 15 points. And it all tallies up. And then at the end of it, there's money involved and we put it back. And it creates the pot, basically, for drinking for the weekend, which is quite fun. But yeah, I never expected that. And I never really kind of aimed for it or wanted it. And I don't think a lot of the people who are relatively, like the people my age who are good at it, that wasn't part of their radar. Most of them just wanted to make rent, basically.
Yeah.
That was it. I think that was the do-all and end-all for me. My bit of advice there would be, don't try and be famous as a creator in Magic. Being famous as a creator in Magic and being a good creator in Magic are two entirely different things. I could go out tomorrow and steal a bunch of stuff and become famous as a creator easily. That's not what you want. You want to go get the skills to be able to build stuff and build them well, or design a trick well, and then the whole fame part of it kind of follows. But again, I still wouldn't class myself as famous. I don't like looking at myself that way. As I said before, I'm a small guy from a small town that just happens to do Magic. But yeah, the advice on that is that's not what to aim for. Just aim to be good at either Magic or creating. And if they both kind of tally up well, the other part of it will come.
That is good advice. I mean, for anybody who's got a trick that they've put together, though, like what advice would you give people about? Because you've done everything. You've self-published. Mm-hmm. You've brought ebooks out. You've done custom gaffs where you've like, look, I'll do it on a 1-by-1 basis. Mm-hmm. Then you've worked with people like Big Blind Media, Murphy's Magic, Penguin Magic. You've worked with World Magic. Pretty much every Magic dealer that there is, you've worked with. Is there a right way or a wrong way to release a trick? Let's say somebody's got a trick, they've done their due diligence, they think it's ready, they've worked it in, they want to release it. You know, you're the good path because you've done so many, you know so many people, and you've gone down so many different routes in your career.
Don't go to Illusionist. I'm kidding, right?
Hey, you're talking to the guy that did a 1 hour 20-minute rant on Illusionist, right?
Dude, it's a company I still would never put anything out with. So let's say that you have a routine or a gimmick or something that you've made up and you're proud of it. The first thing you should do is make an unlisted YouTube video. Just get a timestamp on it. Make sure that if you had to go check a timestamp, you've got it, because I've been stung by this one a few times. And it helps if anyone comes out later on and says, well, I've got this and I have it on the 23rd of this month, 2017. You can go, well, I've got a date here that says 2014. So where are we going to go from there? So if that's the first good bit of advice, film it, even do a rough walkthrough of what the gimmick is, make it unlisted so no one can get it. Only you have it. It's just there for your records. You should see the back end of my YouTube. It is brutal. Second thing is send it to a Magic company you trust. I have never had an issue with Vanishing Ink. I've never had an issue with Big Blind Media. To be honest, there's a lot of really good ones out there. It just depends what you're aiming for on your release. Are you just trying to get something out to start a catalog as being a creator? Or are you, in fact, one good bit of advice is if you're trying to get something out to hit it big and like get a bunch of money in and level it, just don't. It's not going to happen. There's no money in Magic. There's no money in selling it. When I first get into it, there was a little teeny bit of money you could make. There's none anymore. It just isn't there. And that's why like Jay Sankey keeps putting out a bunch of stuff on the Earth and Exchange. Do you know what I mean? Because he's got to keep putting content out to keep making rent. And I can't moan at him for that. I can't fault it. The guy's got to eat. So get that thought out your heads. And if you have a good demo of it, send it to a Magic company and say, look, I have this. I've done a bit of research on it. I can't find anything else similar. Or if I can, Here's where the similarities are. Here's how mine's is different and how it's better. Would you have a look at it and would you consider it? So like send it to Murphy's have a submission page. So does Big Blind Media. I think every Magic website has a submissions page. Do me a favor, avoid like the Wire on Theory 11 or self-uploading on Penguin and all that kind of fun thing, because there's no quality control there really. They just need to make sure there's no audio issues that they're going to get flagged up on from copyright. And then it just generally goes up. So no, it's not been peer reviewed, and it's something you should always look at getting done. It's the only way you know if your creation is good or if it's going to get better. So do it that way. Don't self-publish it on one of those kind of places. The only time I will self-publish something is if it's something I've held on to for a long time. I know that it's good and I've got all the chaff off of it, or if I've shown a few friends it. It's another good bit of advice: get a sort of peer group of friends that you can send stuff to that you trust, and make sure they're absolutely honest with you, and don't get hissy at them if they tell you something sucks, because it's going to happen. If you're going to self-publish, that helps out no ends. But yeah, just if you think you've got something good, do the research on it. Make sure there's nothing like it out there. Show your friends who might be able to tell you if there is something they've seen. Send it to a magic company you trust, like Murphy's or something like that, and they'll soon enough tell you if there's already something out there that matches it.
That's great advice. That really is. And with all of the stuff that you've released over the years, let me ask you a question. What's your favorite creation? I'll give you my top three, because you know that I've followed your career very, very closely, and I perform and have seen a lot of your stuff. My top three Alan Rorrison tricks. Tell you right now. Number three, Linky. think it's amazing. And I do a lot of rubber band stuff. And as you know, I do a lot of stuff with keys, with Keymaster and everything. So it fits with my thing. Mm-hmm. Number two, anything that you do with a chip on a credit card. Because
I went through a phase of that, didn't I?
Oh, that's just phenomenal. It really is. And number one, and this is probably not one that you'd expect me to say, but I still do it right now at every gig. I can't remember what you called it. Off with your head. It's the best use of a friction pen in the world.
Oh, yeah. Evolution.
Yeah, it is amazing because you can take a borrowed business card. If you put this trailer out now with this ad copy, borrowed business card, you take a card, you can take your own card or an unprepared business card, whatever. You draw a stick man on it and you literally just move the head. It reminds me of Portable Hole by Michael Close, but more commercial and less angly and hardly any preparation. It's brilliant. I tell everybody who I ever meet, that is one of the most, it is. I'm doing a series on business card magic, and it's the most commercial trick with a business card that you can find.
Oh yeah, it's still one of my favorites to this day. I still have my cards made up in a way that the back is still just completely blank, which another good bit of advice, by the way, for performing magicians. Don't fall into the trap of having like some details on one side of the card and other details on the other. Leave the back blank and always go for the matte finish. Don't go for the high-end glossy finish. Go for the matte, and it means the pen will stay on there easier. If you're in a venue that doesn't have a Sharpie and yours runs out, you can use a biro on the back of it and it'll work just the same. So always go for the... I know it looks cheap to you. People don't freaking care. Business cards are on the way out anyway. So just go for the cheapest ones on Vistaprint. Trust me, you'll save a lot of money. But yeah, there was a trick at the same time that came out that was kind of similar to one. I used to do that trick on a pack of cards, and it was a different method. So I put it out, and then I got approached, and the guy was like, "This is similar to this." And it turned out mine was out a little bit before, but this was back before the internet really was big and you could research properly. So by the end of it, both of us just kind of went, "Look, it's cool. They both just need to be there." But I will stop selling that version of it now for you. It doesn't bother me, and that was absolutely fine. And it was just because I still wanted to do the trick. So I went and designed a new method, which obviously used the friction pen. And it was, I remember the day I thought of it. I could have sat down and went, "Oh, you son of a bitch." I was like, that's a method. That's the way to do it. You don't have to mess about with it. I even designed wallets that had heat pads in there, so I didn't have to use a lighter. You could just put it on the wallet and use it that way. Like a business card wallet style thing. With loads of weird stuff. Then it always just ended up going back to the lighter. One, I think I see it on Fingers of Fury. Draw a glass on the back of a card with some fake water in it, then draw the ice cubes and friction. And you can show the person, like you've just drawn it, then you can melt the ice cubes away with a lighter and give it to them and say, take it home, put it in your freezer. They'll freeze again. And people will go, what? And it makes them keep your card. They take it home, they stick it in the freezer, and sure enough, because the pigment gets down to freezing, it goes dark again. So it looks like they freeze. Little bonus for anyone that has that. But back to point, my favourite. Jesus, that's a toughie. A lot of people expect me to say smoke, and where I do still carry it every single day, I wouldn't say it's my favourite. I think my favourite is my key through ring.
Oh yeah.
Let me. Do I have a key handy? Let me see. Give me a second. You get to see my Batman PJs. There we are. I do have a key. All right. So this thing. Don't know how well this will come across on this camera, but we'll try it. So you grab yourself a ring. Grab yourself a key. And obviously the head of the key won't fit through there.
No.
There's just no way unless you do that, and it looks like it is actually through. And the good thing is this is a borrowed key and a borrowed ring if you want it to be, so you can just hand it back to them like that now. That is on Digits of Deception. And for as silly as this is, for stupid as it is, this is my favorite thing just now because it uses nothing of yours.
Oh, Digits of Deception. Where was that brought out?
It was just brought out, I think it was the start of this year with Big Blind Media.
I think I missed that.
I'll get one sent to you. I have one here. I'll send it down to you.
My God, that's amazing. That has blown me away. I have never seen that before. It's not what I thought you were going to show me, and that has pulled the pants off me, Alan. That's amazing.
You're going to be pissed off when you see the method.
Really?
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's
supremely
really
pissed off when you see the method. But it's that DVD. Well, both. There's a second DVD that might come out, or we might fragment it into downloads because it'll just be easier, I think. But on all of that project, there's a lot of stuff on there that I've been holding back. Just because I use it too much and I just kind of didn't want it to be out there. And that was one of those things. It's just really simple, really easy. And I just call it, I can't remember what I called it on the DVD. If I'm talking to someone, it's just the key thing now. That's one good thing you should remember. If you run up to a magician at a convention and say, oh, I bought this trick. It's amazing, blah, 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 blah. That magician probably does not know what trick you're talking about. When we need to name stuff, we just chuck a name on a DVD just so it's got a title. It's still the key thing or the aces thing, or do you know what I mean? It's
yeah, it's true. It really is. So are you have you had anything new out recently after that? I didn't know that came out in January, but have you got anything new out that's new out now or coming out soon? Or
I think it was about January that came out. It might have been fair. It came out at the start of the year. The last thing I put out was Fluxed, which is about 2015 roughly. I put out app-controlled watch prediction, time prediction on a watch. So you take your watch off, set a time and put it down. And you can control it via a special app and it would change the time on the watch, obviously. So I put that out. It was the first one on the market that worked with a Bluetooth watch, and it was app controlled and that kind of fun thing. And I just never kept the app up to date and that kind of stuff. It didn't have to be. When I was doing my research, I figured out that a bunch of the stuff I was doing in the app I didn't have to do, and I was charging people. If I had re-put it out and re-updated it, I'd be charging people more money for something they didn't have to. So I just researched to the ends of the earth what the best watch for that style of routine is and how to do it without any special apps or all that kind of fun thing. And I put all that research together and put it out as a download on my site. So it'll tell you exactly what watches I use, what ones to buy, how to set up your phone within like 20 seconds to do it, how to do it so you can perform it solo, how to do it so you can do it with a friend and have them pretend to be filming and that kind of fun thing. And there's also a couple of bonus routines on there that don't use the phone at all. Even at that, the phone is never in play. They never see it. But it is basically a way to set up a time prediction on a watch that you can control the time 100% with a watch made by an actual watch company, and you can buy one of the watches for as little as 30 quid second hand.
That's awesome.
So coupling the price of the download, for 50 quid you can get up and going, and it's a watch from a watch company. So if anything goes wrong with that watch, you get their warranty with it as well. It's not like a magic company who are just going to stop supporting that in the space of 2 years, 3 years. That's so yeah, cool. Fluxed. If you go to alanrorrison.com, alanrorrison.com, and just look in the downloads there, and there's a thing called Fluxed in there. If you're doing stuff on Zoom just now, on my site, I also have the Zoom Force, which is free. Just go into the site, go through the checkout as normal, it's absolutely free, and it lets you force information on people. So if you've got a Zoom performance going on, you've got a room full of people, they can have them all shout random things at you. And then you can pick out, like, if it's a famous person, Ace Ventura, and think of an animal, and it'll be parrot, and a number, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And
you're not miscalling anything. They'll hear someone shout that. So it's just a nice way to do that kind of fun stuff, and it's free on there as well if you want to grab that.
That's awesome. Now, let's talk about Penn Teller. Because that's something that's been running for a few years now, but you were on season 1, right? So you were...
I don't know what they called it. There was a pilot, and then I think the pilot was season 1, and it was only 1 episode. And then I think it was classed as season 2, but really filming-wise, it's season 1, yeah.
And like, obviously you see so many people going on Foolers now, but what was that experience like for you? I mean, as a coin guy, as somebody who loves coin magic, I thought what you did was brilliant. I thought it was just, I'd never seen anybody do matrix in someone's hands before, and I was like, this is such a clever idea.
I don't think it had been done before, and the funny thing, the ring comment still bothers me to this day. But yeah, it was a different experience. I have never really had any drive to be on TV. I've never wanted to be that person. Again, the whole imposter syndrome kicking in. But when I was told I could possibly have the opportunity to perform for Penn Teller, I was like, I'm not passing that up. So I applied, I showed them the routine, and then I swiftly got an invite down to London to do like an audition for them. It was kind of weird. It was nerve-wracking because you're in a room full of other magicians, and they're judging you, and they're picking apart your stuff from the get-go. But the whole main thing in the whole on TV, it was great. The company they had was fantastic. It was September Films they ran it through at the time, and they were really good at putting you at ease. Everyone spoke to you that, like, when you're walking up behind the big LED panel that split apart for us, when you're walking up there's somebody there just talking to you, talking you down, keeping you good, keeping your mind off of you just about to walk out in front of Penn Teller, but a good 1,000 people, and then whoever many's going to be on the camera at the end of it. So yeah, it was all great. It was all calm. However, the method I used on the night wasn't my normal method. I was going to use a different one. No, I did use a different one. It was going to give me the option to be able to take all my rings off at the end and still be able to do it. However, when I walked out on stage, where I could take the ring off before, something happened that I couldn't take the ring off anymore. So I couldn't take it off if I wanted to. So I had to just yield the knee, and they beat me that way, unfortunately. But you can see the point in my face when I walk out. I'm smiling, and then you see me go, oh crap, and look down slightly, and then go, well, just got to go on with it. Then look back up. That's me knowing that I can't prove this at the end of the question in the ring. Gutted. Yeah. But I mean, it happens. It was a great experience. I loved it. I would never change it for the world. In fact, I might apply again with a new routine I have that I think will get them.
Awesome.
So I might apply for this time.
Well, it's still going strong.
It is. It's a great show. It's one of the select few magic shows on TV I don't mind just watching, because a lot of magic I'm not a massive fan of watching on TV now.
I think it's too scripted, which sounds ridiculous, as we've just been talking about the importance of scripting.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's too contrived. I don't know.
No, they've tried to add too much meaning to all of it.
Yeah.
I think is the problem. Which is the unfortunate thing of being a consultant, is you don't get to see what the producers do on that side of things. That's generally their field. So you have to let them go at it. But I would probably agree.
Although talking about TV, one thing that I think has improved over the years is Britain's Got Talent, since Ross Stevens has been involved with it.
He's been doing a good job of it, yeah. Most certainly he's been a great job of it.
would you ever consider doing BGT? Because you are, you know, I mean, you could bring something totally different to what we're seeing at the moment. And it's safe to say that magicians are well looked after on there now. I think that,
I think they just gave up asking me, but I kept getting emails every year. But this was back when they still took people on just to laugh at them and that kind of thing. There's like, it's just not my kind of, I don't want to be a part of that. Now it's kind of mellowed out in that front. If they asked, I would probably go for it, to be honest. I'd probably give it a go. Not saying I would win and not saying I'd be great, but it'd be a good experience to do, and it'd be a good bragging point for the kid when I'm a bit older, so I can say to him, look, Daddy wasn't always boring. Yeah, I probably would now if they'd asked.
I'd love to see you on there. And here's a question for you: what's next on the bucket list? And this is a question that I ask everybody who comes on this channel. And the reason I do is because everyone I interview has had a stellar career. I mean, you have literally done it all. You know, you've been performing professionally for many, 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 many years. You've been on TV. You've created so much magic. You are considered one of the top creators. You know, you are one of the people who, you know, the best compliment I can pay you is most magicians, if they get an idea, they have to sell it to a magic shop. Whilst you get an idea, you can walk into whichever magic shop you want to, and without even seeing it, they'll probably offer you a deal there and then. I mean, that's the reputation that you have. You can create a bidding war around some of your stuff. So
I wouldn't go that far, but
you know what I mean, though. Where are you? What's next? Because I know that you've only just got started. So
I don't know. I'm kind of odd with it. I've now started, like, as I said, building props and all that kind of stuff for like films and TV, and I'm not, how do I word this? I would like to do that as a little side hustle, if that makes sense. I'm 3D designing a bunch of stuff now for TV, and so they can get the files and add it on and add the assets into what they're doing. So I think more TV work that is non-magic related, just like in the prop building or the special effects side of things. I'd like to kind of move on to that kind of fun thing. In magic, my bucket list is kind of now depleted. If I ever want to be on TV, I've done it. I've worked behind the scenes on it for many, many years. I've went around the world a couple of times with magic, performed in pretty much all the places I wanted to. The only thing I've not done yet that I was due to do this year, but because of COVID went kind of tits up, was go to the 4F convention. Been invited to that a couple of years and I've just never had the chance. This year I was going ahead, then the world went to hell. So as soon as we can get out and about again, that I'll be doing that. I will be going to 4F. I think that's the last little thing I need to check off on my list, really. MIMC, I need to get that. I don't know whose butt I need to kiss for that, but I just want it just to say I've got it. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those sort of weird ones. I've came this far, so I may as well just keep going.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're AIMC, aren't you?
I'm AIMC just now, yeah.
You know what? If anybody deserves it, it's you, 100%.
Yeah, I don't see myself getting it. I think I'm a little bit too outspoken. I don't know if that rubs them well. I'm a wee bit too outspoken when I don't agree with things, or even when I agree with things. I'm just, yeah. So I don't know if it'll ever happen, but if it does, it will be interesting to see what president is in the chair when it happens.
You know, I'm not one to talk about the magic circle and being outspoken. I think I need to.
I know.
That's not a conversation that I should really be getting myself into right now. I heard a rumor that you were going to be writing a book at some point.
Which who have you been talking to?
Which I think would be amazing. That
Matt Parrott has been forcing me to write a book. I hate writing. I don't like it at all. I'm very, very lazy when I write. It's like people think I'm dyslexic online because I'm just like, done, send. I'm not. I am just, pardon my language, but I'm just fucking lazy. I don't like typing. I never have done. But if I sit down and focus on what I'm doing, I'm absolutely fine. So I'm now about 150 pages in. So I'm 6.5 tricks explained. And I've probably got about another 6 to go, maybe 7 if I want to add. I've got a new handling for something that makes the trick far easier than something I put out years ago. So I might add that in as well. We'll see. But I'm midway through it, I would say. And then it has to obviously get proofread and all that kind of fun stuff. But like the guys, like Graham Hay and all the guys over at the magic scene and all that kind of stuff are trying to get me to do it for a while as well. So I've just kind of finally yielded. I mean, okay, I'll do it. Don't get me wrong, I've had books out before. There's books of mine out there, like little books, like with like 4 or 5 tricks in them. Yeah. But I'd like to grab like just like a big hardback thing I could stick on a shelf. Like I don't want to have like a fancy picture of that on it. I just want to do like a black old school cover with like the white writing. It's in the works. It's definitely in the works. I'm hopefully going to get it, the writing side of it, finished for about February.
That would be great. That would be awesome. And Magic Scene, those guys there are doing a great job with the books they're producing.
They're great at it. They're also really good at kind of kicking you up the arse. If I have a month where I'm just lazy and just don't do anything, I'll go, so how's this book coming along? They kind of do the Family Guy things, like, so how's that little book you're writing there? Got a little start, middle, and end? You send you little emails now and again that do that, and I need it because I get lazy, and it's a little kick up the butt that can make, I better go put another routine into this. But it's on way, and as I said, we've also either got a new DVD, which will be Digits of Deception 2, or it'll be a bunch of new downloads, but it would have been the DVD with Big Blind Media coming soon as well.
Well, Big Blind Media are a great company to work with. I mean, you put out stuff with them, obviously, a long time ago. It's, a good company. They're one of the good guys.
Fantastic company. They're one of the most fair as well. The interesting story about those is when I'm a massive fan of music and movies, so I like my heavy rock and my metal and all that kind of fun stuff. And this is back before the internet was really massive and you could check out who people were. Mm-hmm. And there's a band called Earthtone 9, and I was a fan of them. I had their T-shirts, all that kind of jazz. And it was the Fingers of Fury, I think the shoot was, and it was the first time Owen flew me down. So I flew down, and I was staying at his house, and him and his family and his wife and all that were like that night, giving me beer, making me pizza, all the stuff, make me feel comfortable. And they're sitting chatting away, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, I know your fucking face from somewhere, and I don't know where. Don't fucking know where. And I was sitting thinking this all night. Again, had a couple of beers, but went to bed early because we're going to be up early shooting the next day. And I went into the room and I was taking off my T-shirt, and I noticed, son of a bitch, I had been sitting in the guitarists of Earthtone 9's house with a fucking Earthtone 9 T-shirt on, and the dickhead said nothing to me. So he's in the band. He is the guitarist in the band, and I just couldn't place his face. Didn't know, had no fucking clue. And the asshole said not one thing to me the whole time. He must have just been sitting laughing his ass off when I went away. But yeah, Big Blind Media are a great company. I will do more with those guys. If they say we've got a project we need filmed, do you want to come do it? I'll do it in a heartbeat.
Awesome. And what was it like doing a Penguin live?
This is going to sound terrible. I can't remember most of it.
Because Penguin are doing a great job at the moment.
Fantastic. Really great job.
Hitting it out. Because I see a lot of stuff. And recently, everything that's coming out from Penguin has been good.
I remember it was a fun time, don't get me wrong, but I got there. I arrived late because the flight was a bit delayed. I got into the motel, slept. And then I think I had about 2 hours sleep. Got up, which is bad for jet lag. Got there. Everyone was great. Everyone was nice. Done the lecture, and it was just automatic pilot. It was pure automatic pilot. And I think during the lecture you can hear my voice going, and a sort of tangent the whole time. At least like it's fading out. It's getting a bit more rough because I'm a bit more tired. But it was great. I think I went on for like 3 hours on that thing. But it was fun. If you have a body of material that you want to get out, go do it. If the material's worth it, it's a great experience. The audience they get in is great. Everyone's up for a good laugh. Highly recommend it. And if you want a good back catalogue of my material, the Penguin Lecture is a good place to start. It
really is. I mean, yeah, yours is an amazing lecture. I'm doing a video soon on the top 10 Penguin lectures of all time, and you are in the top 10. So.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
It's a weird range in there, like cards, coins, phones, all sorts of weird stuff. But it's a good bait. If you just want to be a street performer and just have a good sort of range of material to use, it's a good start as well. I'm not saying just perform all my stuff, but it's a good base.
It really is. And one last question before we wrap all this up. Mm-hmm. Going back to creativity, because you talked about how you like to tinker with things and so on and so forth. You talked about it's a big range of stuff, which it is, but that kind of personifies your whole career. You see so many people that just do cards or just do coins. what advice would you give somebody who wants to, not to release, not to put, but they want to create, they want to make their own stamp on their own performance, they want to create their own magic, but they don't just want to do card tricks and coin tricks. How do you get inspiration? How do people become inspired to create things that are a bit off the wall like you do?
Look at other forms of media. Like movies for me are a massive thing. Music for me is a massive thing. You'll never see me out of this house without a set of headphones on me. It just doesn't happen. In fact, that's a slight lie now. I've got a kid. If I'm out with a boy, I don't take them because I want to spend the time with the kid.
Yeah.
But look at other forms of media. I mean, every single trick title that I put out, I've kind of taken as a line from a song or a name of a song or a line from a movie and that kind of thing. But look at everything. Go learn a little bit about coding. Go to YouTube, learn a little bit coding, and you might make the next great big magic app. We don't know. Go learn a little bit about electronics. There's loads of good Arduino kits out there, or just base electronic kits out there you can buy and follow along on YouTube as well, where you can make, even if you're just making like a clock for in your room, or that kind of like a little digital clock that you can solder up and all that kind of fun thing. Try and learn a bit of everything. Just now I'm learning how to knit because I don't know how to knit. So I'm sitting knitting away. I'm doing all that kind of stuff. The best way to describe this is if you look at something, just think, how was this made? Look into it, and then you might find some stuff out that might interest you, and you might want to build along. And then oddly, those skills transfer over into building gimmicks for magic and that kind of fun stuff. I mean, I get into like 3D printing because I wanted to make a case up for a gimmick I had made. It's a electronic gimmick, and I wanted to make up like a case that would hide in plain sight kind of thing. So I get into 3D printing purely for that. But now I have 3 printers in this room alone, and the walls are covered in stuff from it. So I mean, it's like one of those things where don't be a jack of all trades, but if something's going to benefit you, try and learn a bit about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those sort of weird things where a lot of people go, well, I'm a purist card magician. I don't use gimmicks. I don't do this. Like, fuck off. Just fuck off. I'm a purist coin guy. Fuck off. It was Shane Colbert that turned around and he's like, Cobalt, sorry, it said, the best way you could describe myself, I won't say Alan Rorrison, the whole third person thing bothers me, but the best way to describe you is by any means necessary. It's like, if you want a trick to happen, you'll figure out how the fuck to make it happen. And it might be a point of you've got weird electronics working here and none here. You'll figure out a way to do it. And it's the best way to look at it, by any means necessary. As long as it's legal and it's not hurting anyone, go for it. Yeah, go learn as many skills as you can. That's it. Just little bits here and there, and you'll be surprised at how much of it all culminates into sort of the creative side of things. And it'll probably trigger your brain more, because your brain, to be creative, you have to get your brain into a creative mindset. To get your brain into a creative mindset, you have to work your brain and keep it learning. And if you keep your brain working and learning new things, it's going to get those sort of juices flowing, and it will happen naturally. Like I've never to this, well, if not to this day, to the start of this pandemic, couldn't solve a Rubik's Cube. Had a 20-minute part of it in one of my acts, couldn't solve the fucker. So at the start of the pandemic, I sat down and learned how to solve it. That was it. That's kept the brain going now. And now I'm working on different stuff with Rubik's Cubes that's kind of non-magic related, but it's amazing what learning new things kind of pushes you to do.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to fail as well. You're going to fuck up. You're new at something. You're going to fail. It's just part of the whole process. Just get on with it. Figure out why you failed, fix it, and move on.
Well, very quickly before we wrap it up on that subject, and that is amazing. That's probably the best answer to that question I've ever had. Let's take one of your tricks, which is the chip coming on and off the card, which worked with a lot over the years. How did you find the original inspiration for that? To take something that everybody knows and then, to break it down. Where did the creative process come with that? Because that's something that was so original when you first did it, and it still is now.
Well, I think we were one of the first countries to get chips on our cards, on our credit cards and that kind of fun thing. And then the uni I was at had our ID cards that you would log into, like all doors and all that stuff had one on it as well, instead of an RFID chip. And and this is when I was doing my nursing. So I was working in the lab, and I put my wallet up on top of a machine. It's a centrifugal machine where you break down bloods and all sorts of stuff. So I had it on top of this as we were going through the class, and this machine's running, and it's heating up. And I didn't realize that the card inside the wallet had just been there, and it had been warping and destroying the whole time. So when I went to get out the room, I took out the card, and I was like, why is that not working? And I looked at it, and the chip wasn't there. And I was like, Jesus, they make these things so cheaply that it falls out. And the machine had just hit up enough that the chip had fell off inside the wallet. So I had this little teeny piece of chip. I was like, oh, there's a trick in that. Pulling this off of someone else's card or moving it about on their card and then popping it back on and all that kind of jazz will be awesome. So I initially sanded down the back of that chip. And I think on the original version, it was just double stick tape I used. And I would just load it on, pop it off and show them that it's off, put it back on their own card and hand it out. And then we moved on to having a little, I initially done the stupid thing of having a little square magnet cut. I contacted Jim Trainer, who had a good contact for magnet guys. I was like, I really need a thin sliver of magnet, have it cut and have it etched. So it's a piece that works. So I'd done all that. And then it got to a point where Jim turns around and goes, why don't you just get like vinyl decals made up and put a magnet in them? I was like, oh, you son of a bitch. Once we'd done that, and I knew I could make a really thin gimmick and load it up in loads of different ways, I came out with loads of those. Christ, I think you bought one at Scotland and the Sam's thing up here. Half the Magic Castle bought one when I was over there. I have a nasty habit of getting on a train of thought on something and then exhausting it, basically. So I'll look at it in every which way. Can we move the chip on a card? Can we pop it off? Can we move it to another spot and leave it there? Can we move it on someone else's card? Can we make it pop onto another item, like onto a bill? Or I mean, this is all on my Instagram as well if you want to check them out. Can you pop it onto a bill? Can you pop it onto the back of a phone case? I went crazy with it, absolute crazy. But the thought process on that is just what my brain does. So I figured out you could pop that off. Then at the time I figured out that you could mimic that with a cheap SIM card, so you didn't have to keep destroying a bank card each time. You could just go buy a SIM card in Tesco's and pop the chip off that, and it looks similar enough. And then I obviously progressed it on so we can get it thinner and thinner and thinner. And once I had it as thin as I wanted and cheap enough to make, I just started going crazy with it. There was, around this town, there was chips stuck to everything. Absolutely everything. And I was taking someone's business card and make it look like I was taking the chip off and throwing it onto like a big fridge thing that was in this bar, and just going boop and having it appear on there, and then wiping and it be going on there and have it come back onto the card. It's like stuff like that. I've got a nasty habit of exhausting things. But that thing has been in my wallet for the past 10 years now, I think.
Yeah.
It's never not been in my wallet. It's just one of the fact. There's a point I do tip one of the methods of it on the Penguin lecture. Mm-hmm. I wasn't gonna, but it's because I showed where my crib was, which was on the back of another card, and I forgot I kept the original gimmick next to it. I was like, I've seen it already, so I may as well teach it. But that is one of my favourites.
Plus, at the Penguin Live lecture, you were sleep deprived anyway, so
yeah, a little bit. But I mean, I taught it on there. It's absolutely fine.
Well, I personally hope, Alan, that you carry on creating magic. I mean, I know, we've talked in the past, there's a lot of people that are stealing ideas at the moment, ripping stuff off. And
yeah. The problem I've got is there's a weird statement that people say is you can't claim you created everything, which is true. You can't. However, if you've got like notes or proof of it, or you've got a video proof that's dated, then I'm going to say something. I'm not going to not say anything. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Unfortunately, with the catalogue I've got, it happens now and again. You just have to hope that people see sense, really.
Yeah. Hopefully. But that's the thing. You've created so much stuff over the years. It's
kind of my own fault, isn't it?
Yeah, you created so much stuff. But yeah, it's the thing, isn't it? Like John Cornelius left creating magic just because he was sick to death of his stuff being ripped off. Mm-hmm. Pen for Anything is the perfect example. He came up with that idea.
I don't think he left creating magic. I think he just didn't put it out. He was probably sitting on a boatload of great ideas, or probably still is.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably in a room somewhere that we just don't know about. And it's just because most magicians are assholes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's select few magicians that are great, and I hope everyone watching is in that list. But magicians can be the most fickle, petty people on this planet.
Yeah, they really can. They really can. And it's a shame. It's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
But there are good guys out there as well.
Oh, definitely. By all means. There's a whole squad of them. You just have to get them on your side.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? For people that are watching this interview that have not seen Alan before, please check out all of his material. I know you're such a busy guy. I've been trying to arrange this interview with you for ages, and you are so busy. So thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. I just hope everyone's got something out of it.
Oh, they definitely will have. And if you want to check out Alan's website, it's on the screen at the bottom right now. It's alanrorrison.com. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
And like I say, check out his back catalogue because
I can do this for you as well with all the socials.
Look at that.
All the socials are that and all that kind of fun stuff.
It is well worth following Alan on Instagram, especially because you put so many crazy videos out.
Yeah.
Like so much stuff. I'll just look at it. I'll be like, what? Yeah, you put some.
Again, thank you kindly. You're making me blush.
Yeah, it's true, man. It's true. So thank you so much for coming on the channel. Like I said, I know how busy you are, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you kindly. And again, I hope everyone enjoyed it.
They will indeed. Now, guys, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. We got another Talk Magic next week. We are back. Well, I'm back tomorrow with Ryland. We're going to be doing another review show. And yeah, Thursday we got a magic stuff. So I'll see you then. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.